If you have a story that you think would make a good episode, and you don't mind being recorded, please contact us via the email or Reddit links in the description. We have already started producing Season 3, and this time we're including your stories as well as ours. All events depicted in this podcast are real. However, the names, locations, and some details have been changed for the privacy of those involved. Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 8 of Walking on Eggshells with an Emotional Vampire, a podcast that above all things is about family. Okay, so let's just get this done. So as you know, I've been having issues finishing the edit on this episode, but it was about 8 weeks before Christmas when Lily and I told the sisters that she was pregnant. Lily, are you good to go? You know what you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Just go for it when you're ready.
Okay. So congratulations, you're gonna be aunties.
What? Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh my god! Congratulations!
Holy cow balls! That's awesome!
Oh, that's amazing!
I remember thinking that holy cow balls was a weird thing for Ellie to say at this moment.
Papa Lucas.
But at the same time, it was really sweet that she was so excited.
Oh, so when?
So 27th of June.
Oh, that's so exciting. Well, if it's a few days before, it'll be like my birthday, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
No.
I can try, Ellie.
You better.
It was just a nice moment in general, and I'm so glad that I had the forethought to record it and have it as something to listen back to in the future.
So good. Such good news. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Super happy.
And if I'm being honest, this conversation is probably the first time I felt much of any specific emotion about the pregnancy.
She tried to surprise me with the news, but
I
don't know. I just knew.
You were on the phone to one of them, weren't you?
To one of them.
Yeah, like to Ellie or Aria.
Yeah, I was probably on the phone to Aria, but I kind of knew because you're like, I've got a surprise for you or something. And then I'm like, yeah, she's pregnant for sure. And then she pulls out this stick, and I'm like, that's it. That's the pregnancy stick. That's what that is. I know that.
Were you excited though?
And this is the question that I keep getting asked all the time by everyone. Am I excited? And it's a hard one to answer without coming across as a sociopath. But at the same time, I'm not the type of person to lie about the answer
Look,
either.
It's one of those things. It's not really something. It's like I said, like I don't have a connection to having a kid or anything like that. But at the same time, I don't want to be one of those weird old guys who dies alone, like a weird old creepy guy. I don't really want to be like a father or something. I'm not excited about that.
That's great. That's wonderful to say.
Yeah, that's great.
You'll be excited when you see your own child.
You will, yeah.
Yeah, like everyone says that, and look, I'm sure it's true. It's not like I'm a serial killer or something.
And although I'm sure that I could fill this and several other podcast episodes dissecting my complicated emotions about becoming a dad, that's not what we're here for. Not today, anyway.
You feel it moving. Like it's like if there's an alien. It's really weird.
Oh my god.
You're gonna love it. It's gonna be the best.
Pregnant women freak me out. Like, it's so weird. It is like an alien.
This is all wonderful things for your wife to hear right now.
We discussed this. It's fine.
I want her to watch the movie Alien.
No.
Oh my god.
To see, because it really is like that. It's like this weird thing, and then Lily keeps showing me pictures of what it looks like inside her. It looked like a dinosaur thing.
Yeah.
Had a weird, like, elongated head. And then the last one, like, it even had ass cheeks. Like the last picture, like actual formed ass cheeks. Like, pregnant women are so weird. It actually freaks me out.
I just want to add here that I mean all this in a good way. Like, pregnant women do freak me out, but it's because it's so amazing. It's just also really weird.
How soon did it show on you, Ellie?
First one, it was a while, but I could actually feel, I don't know, this sounds really gross, but I could actually feel like the bubble sack that it was in.
Oh my god.
What the fuck?
I know that sounds gross, but I could actually feel like the sack thing that it was in. It was like a balloon.
It's the fact that you're using the word bubble sack and then sack over and over again. That's what's making it really weird for me.
Well, it's called a sack, I think, isn't it? Oh, I don't know.
The amniotic sac.
A bubble sack.
Isn't that what it is? The amniotic fluid sac?
Yeah, something like that.
So it is a sac.
Yeah.
So it's actually the amniotic, not amniotic sac. I just looked it up now. But either way, it's not going to make much of a difference. Because as you might have guessed, what we're going to discuss today has less to do with the baby.
But you obviously cannot tell anyone because we haven't told your parents.
And more to do with the grandparents.
No, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Oh, yeah.
I
okay.
wouldn't say
Yeah.
anything.
Well, this is one of the big problems that I'm having is that I don't know how and when and if I even want to tell Mum.
She'd be over the moon, though.
Yeah, she would. But
She would just absolutely love it.
yeah, I know. Look, I know I have to tell her. It just both the parents. It just gives me so much anxiety. The idea of telling them.
Because the fact is that it was only recently that I reconnected with Mum after years of estrangement. And even then, it only happened after creating episodes of this podcast that made me feel guilty.
I don't want to tell them. Like, me and Lily were even talking about how long we can wait because the whole thing makes me anxious.
There's going to be that thing where it was the same with me, that she wasn't the first to know. So I don't know whether she's got out of that or...
Yeah, she was pissed off about this,
I
right?
remember that.
Didn't Cara let it slip that she knew before her or something like that?
Because Bruce had texted everybody. I don't know what happened, whether she just didn't read the text message.
That's it.
And then she freaked out. And then she didn't come and visit me because of it.
Jeez.
So, I don't know. That's a hard one. That's a hard one for you.
Like, are you guys gonna see her at all over this holiday period?
So we're actually going camping up near, I can't think of what it's called now, up near where she lives anyway. It's about half an hour outside. So I will definitely see her then. But I mean, I won't say anything.
But are you gonna tell the kids? Like, are they gonna tell her?
No, they shouldn't do.
They shouldn't.
Well, I can tell them not to. So
Okay, you think they're not gonna say?
yeah, no, they'll be fine.
This is exactly why after the wedding I didn't want to involve the parents in anything anymore, because it's every time it's like this. It's back to changing events and tiptoeing around things. It drives me crazy.
And so, finally, we arrive at the event that I feel like I've been circling for half of this season of the podcast.
Everything just turns into our wedding over again.
I always knew that I would have to address mine and Lily's wedding at some point. I've just been holding it off for as long as possible, because it does piss me off. But with a looming pregnancy and a baby on the way, it seems pretty much inescapable. And if I'm going to get you to understand why this wedding had such an impact on me, I'm going to need to take you back a few months before the event to show you where my head was at.
You kept saying, I know some stuff is going to happen and I'm giving everyone permission to air their grievances and then we can move on and be happy. And yeah.
Yeah. I wanted us to be a family again. And I thought, because I'd gone through one of my signature turns, which I've realised is a pattern for me now, where I was angry at Mum. I hadn't talked to her for a year or a couple of years, and then I started feeling bad about it, and then I started talking to her again. And she seemed okay, and that's why I thought, okay, I've reconciled with Mum now. Maybe we can all reconcile, and maybe my wedding can be the catalyst for that. You know, just get us all together and
Let it rip.
yeah, basically.
Looking back on this decision now, I can't believe how selfish and ill-advised this thought process was. I'm basically risking Lily's right as a bride to have a perfect wedding for my own selfish ambitions to be the peacemaker. And that's not okay. So to Lily, when you listen to this, I just want you to know that I'm sorry, and it should have been my job to put your needs before everyone else's. But as it was, that's not what I did.
None of Lily's family could make it over anyway, because they were stuck over in Sweden, and it was during COVID, so we had the flights were all closed. But we could have still had guests, but instead I said, no, it'll just be our immediate family. That way, whatever happens, it's contained between us. Which again, I think back now is it's pretty selfish, because Lily couldn't invite any friends. It was just my family. That's it.
Now that you know my reasoning behind the guest list, let's take a minute to analyze it a bit closer. It was made up of 14 people, 10 adults and 4 kids. The core group consisted of Mum, Dad, Cara, Ellie and Daria. And then there were Ellie and Daria's partners, Bruce and Riggins, and Mum's partner, Ian. And finally, Lily and I, the bride and groom. I won't bother explaining the kids. No one gives a shit about them anyway. And now that all of this has been outlined for you, and given that you are a loyal subscriber to the podcast, listening to the Season 2 finale, I have a little test for you. to see if you've been paying attention for all these episodes. I want to see if you can work out, from the guest list that I've just given you, what were the major conflict concerns that I had going into this wedding. I'll give you a second to think about it. Your time starts now. Once you have an answer, you don't need to wait for me. You can just blurt it out aloud. And if you get some concerned looks from the people sitting next to you in the cubicle or the train station, don't worry about them. They're not important. Okay. Your time's up now. How did you go? If you said mum and dad, give yourself a big tick. Dad has talked about killing mum, so that's the obvious answer. And what about mum and Kara? Did you get that one too? They haven't spoken since mum accused Kara of stealing the White Album, remember? So those are the two obvious answers. But I'd also accept it if you had Dad and Arya. After all, Dad did disown Arya at the mental ward. But to be honest, Arya's too nice to ever make a scene at my wedding, so I wasn't really concerned about that. Now, did any of you have any other answers? Because there is one more that I will accept. But if you did get it, I'll be super impressed. Because while this conflict has been mentioned in passing, it's not been explained. Well, not explained until now, that is. This, of course, is the conflict between Dad and Arya's husband, Riggins.
So, a little while after Dad had got his surgery and he wanted me to come over for lunch, me and Riggins was not very happy that I'd forgiven Dad because Dad was being pretty horrible to me.
So he was super pissed about the way Dad was when he was in the nut house, right?
Yeah, just like disowning me and like especially when I was doing everything and trying to organize everything. He just doesn't like to see me hurt.
Sure, that makes sense. So what happened when you got to the lunch?
Yes, Dad tries to become a father figure to people. And so he was trying to like give like life lessons to Riggins, just how to make a fire, how to use tools, like, I don't know, telling Riggins how to do his job and like all of that sort of thing. And then Riggins just goes, I came here for lunch, not a life lesson. And then it was literally like silence for like a good minute. We just stood there looking at the fire and everyone was just silent. And then I had to break the silence. So I was like, oh, I think Riggins is just protective of me because of all the stuff that happened with you and I and the mental ward and, you know, all of that. So he's just a bit protective. And then Dad goes, no, he just thinks he's better than me. And I'm like, oh, God. And so Riggins is like, oh, I'm going to leave. Let's go. So we get up to start walking away and Dad's across, like on the other side of the fire. And he's like, come back here and fight me. Fight me.
Did you really say that? Come back and fight me.
Yeah.
What the hell?
And then Riggins is like, I'm not going to fight you. You're an old man. And he's like, I can take you. I can take you. Come back and fight me. And Riggins like, I'm getting out of here.
Hang on. The way you're explaining this, it doesn't compute with me. It's like everything sounds completely casual except for Dad. You know, Riggins is like, I don't want a life lesson. And then Dad's like, come and fight me. You know, like, it wasn't really like that.
That's exactly what it was like, though.
And Riggins was that casual. Like, he's just like, okay, I'm going to leave. And then just casually walks off.
Well, Riggins he was angry. He's like, come on, we're leaving. Come on.
But like angry, like aggressive, or was he just like...
He wasn't aggressive. He was just like done with it.
Yeah, I suppose he goes over for lunch and then it just erupts into this like argument where Dad's picking a fight with him.
Look, this is going to be a controversial one, but what do we think about a fight between Dad and Riggins? I don't know. I think Dad's got a pretty good shot of winning that one.
Yeah, but you know why? Because he would have already thought about how he's going to beat him.
Exactly.
Because you know how he thinks, like he says, every situation he's got a plan of how he's going to execute it or how he's going to get out of it or whatever.
I've seen him do it. He's a fucking animal.
I disagree. One kick to the leg and Dad's down.
Yeah, but it's your husband, so I understand you have to say that. But I don't know, man. He'd have his testicles in his mouth, not in like a sexual way, but like in a biting way or something.
I'm going to spare you the cringe of this argument.
Such a gimp move.
Well, Riggins is punching him in the head.
What the hell?
As Arya and I argue over who is the bigger man, my dad or her husband.
Dad's testicles in his mouth.
Oh my
Like,
God,
they're
stop
reversed.
it.
Ari's getting all bent out of shape. Thinking of Regan's testicles in Dad's mouth.
No, well, that's the difference is I don't think Riggins would fight dirty and obviously not fight dirty a 60-something-year-old man either.
And instead, move straight into the aftermath of Riggins chickening out on the fight with Dad.
And then Dad starts sending the abusive text messages to Riggins saying, you and your whole family think they're better than me. I can fight you. You're not a man. Come back and fight me. You're not a man. A real man wouldn't walk away. Like, just stuff like that. Just egging him on.
Goading him into a fight.
Yeah, why would you want to fight him anyway? Like,
I don't know. I told Riggins to block Dad's number. Said don't reply, don't say anything back, block his number and call your mum and make sure that she blocks Dad's number as well and blocks him on Facebook because I know what Dad is like.
So this pretty much covers the conflict between Dad and Riggins. But there is a little more to the story that has significance to Aria's mindset. And I think it's worth sharing before we move back into the wedding.
And so then Dad started calling me. I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, he's not a man and you're not part of the family anymore. You're a Riggins now. And he goes, the next time you'll see me is when I'm dead in a coffin because you're not my daughter anymore. You're part of their family.
Oh, it's so much worse than I remember.
Yeah.
Did you say anything back?
Well, that's the next thing is I said, all right, just call me tomorrow when you're sober. And then he's like, I am sober and I won't call you. You're not my daughter anymore. And I was like, righto, I'm going to talk to you when you're sober. Bye. And I hung up on him. And then the next day he called me and I answered and he goes, hey, my beautiful, wonderful daughter.
Of course.
And then I said, I thought I was disowned. And he goes, no, you don't take any of that into consideration. That was yesterday. And I was angry, but it's all fine now. And then he proceeded to say, make sure you don't tell anyone in the family what happened yesterday because I want to protect Riggins because it makes him look really bad. And I said, I've already told everyone what happened. And he's like, well, just make sure that, they don't look any less of Riggins. And I was like, no one does. Don't worry about
did
it.
you not say they look more or less of you because you're being an idiot?
Well, I just didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, true.
And that's like the first situation where Dad's done something like that and I didn't cry. And I was like officially done with his shit then. I was like, he's just pulls out whatever card he wants to play to get an emotional reaction from you. And when you don't give him that emotional reaction, he doesn't have any power.
Aria amazes me. Only she could have Dad abuse her husband and disown her on one day, and then answer his call and make up on the next. It is true what she said about Dad though. He does derive his power from manipulating other people's emotions, which is probably why Aria has historically been the most vulnerable to his attacks, because she is the most openly emotional of all of us.
And it was also because I was sticking up for Riggins and he's my husband and I was like, fuck that. I don't need to deal with Dad's shit.
And before we get too sidetracked, I will remind you that while all of this was going on, I was still furiously at work, trying to find ways to use my wedding to heal our family's conflicts. My first ill-conceived action was to add Mum to our family group chat.
That whole time. Like, I don't know what the hell I was thinking here, adding Mum to this group chat. Like, it's just a bad idea. And you two were warning me, saying, like, this is not a good idea. Like, she's going to ruin everything.
Yeah, and then we created our own side chats on the side.
That's right, we did. We had a chat about how Mum was screwing up the chat.
And to be honest, some inappropriate comments from Mum here and there on a Facebook chat would have been little more than an easily ignored annoyance if she hadn't then managed to piss off the most important wedding guest of them all.
So Lily sent a message on this group chat that was like, hey, we're thinking about getting married on this date. Is that day good for everyone? Like, that's all it was, right? That's all the message was.
She was just asking if everybody was okay with this date. It wasn't like, oh, surprise, we're getting married.
Well, yeah, like everyone knew we were getting married. Well, it wasn't the wedding announcement. It was just what date was everyone free. But then Mum got like super offended by it.
I actually hate having to add this part of the story to the episode because I find conflicts over text to be so petty and uninteresting. But it is significant and I do need to highlight it. but I'll do my best to summarise.
Mum sent a message saying that it would have been respectful if she'd gotten a call first.
Yeah, and Lily was like a little bit pissy, and she's like, "What the fuck is with your mum? Am I like not allowed to send group texts out anymore? I have to ask permission first?"
And not wanting to start a fight, but at the same time, not wanting to back down either, Lily responded.
Well, she just wrote back like it
It
was.
was easier to message everyone at once.
Yeah, it's easier just to write a text message than to write everyone individually.
And in a normal world, with a stable person, that might have been the end of it. But of course, Mum wasn't finished yet.
Exact text here. So what Mum wrote back to Lily was this: "I'm so glad to have such a caring family who respects me and involves me in things." And then what Lily wrote back is, "Every family member is equally important and special to both Lucas and me, and that's why we're telling you all at the same time. I would have done the same with my family because this is a very important announcement and one of the biggest and most special moments in our lives."
And if things ended here, everything would have been fine. Both Mum and Lily could have left this exchange feeling validated. But as I'm sure you know, that's not how this would shake out.
And then so what Mum wrote back was, "A phone call would have been nice, ... And then straight away she sent another text message that said, "Just make sure that you call your family and tell them. They will appreciate it." And I hate putting tones on messages, but if you know Mum, that last part, you can feel
It was
the
sarcastic.
Yeah, you can feel the sarcasm.
And that last part, the bit about her family, really was the point of no return for Lily. And with her emotions already raw about the prospect of getting married without her very large and very tight family present, she hit back with one final text message.
And then the final text message that Lily sent, it was, "I've already texted my whole family and they're so excited and happy for us, even though they can't be here." And I can tell you, being with her when she was going through this, that message, she was pissed off. And her reaction was like, "What the fuck? Stop making assumptions about my family. Your family's a fucking shit show. My family actually supports me, so don't put your assumptions on them."
And if Lily's intention in sending this text message was to win the argument, well then, it certainly appeared to work.
And then Mum responded by deleting all her text messages and leaving the chat. And you know what it felt like? It felt like a shark attack. So you've got all the splashing in the water and kicking and all this craziness going on. And then the victim gets dragged under the water and then it's just complete stillness. And you just know that something terrible happened here.
And just like that, you can go ahead and add Mum and Lily as number 5 to my list of conflict concerns going into the wedding. Up until this point in the planning, I had been able to delude myself into believing that I could still create a happy wedding day, even when half the guests wanted to tear each other's throats out. But this last conflict, it was with the bride, and I was forced to accept the reality that Lily, the person who I cared about the most, might end up really hurt here.
It just seemed like Lily had lost her enthusiasm for the wedding. She didn't say anything necessarily, but she didn't talk about it anymore. She just didn't seem to get any joy out of the idea of it. And I felt really shitty actually. And I knew I'd have to do something about it, but I just wasn't sure what that was straight away.
And in the end, I did come up with a solution.
So I came up with what I thought was the perfect plan, which was to split the wedding and the reception into 2 separate events. So we'd have the wedding, which would be for all of the sane people who weren't going to ruin things. And then we'd have the reception, which was for everyone, including the psychopaths who were going to all fight with each other. And I thought that was a perfect solution.
Splitting up the events in this way would take some explaining. I mean, how do you go about justifying to someone with perpetual FOMO that they're not allowed to attend their own son's wedding?
I wasn't sure how I was going to get away with it at first. But then I thought, okay, what we'll do is we'll say we just want like a little family wedding with just, I don't even know how we actually
So you just wanted your witnesses.
Yes, that was it.
That was it.
Yeah, just we wanted a small little COVID ceremony with just the people that had to be there.
And amazingly, this plan would work, and it did enable me to give Lily a drama-free wedding ceremony amidst all of the encircling chaos. But as much as I do look back on the day that we exchanged our vows with fondness, there is some regret too.
Fine. Like, It was a really beautiful wedding with, just Ellie and Bruce and the kids. But the thing that really sucked is that, Aria, you weren't there.
Yeah, kick me to the curb.
And at the time, I thought it was okay, but then more and more over time now, when I think back on it, I wish you were there. It actually really sucks.
But I was fine with it. It's your guys' wedding, and I wanted you guys to have the best day you possibly could have. So
I know you're fine with it, but I wish you were there. You're my little sister. I just wish you were there. But I knew you'd be fine with it. That's why
you chose me to kick out.
Yeah, but
Aria will be cool with this.
yeah, it was like that. And it just makes me think about how we're always changing our fucking events and things, changing them to accommodate the parents, and it just sucks. At least I got to have you there anyway, Ellie.
I was like, wait, what about me?
You got to be the favourite sister for
I
once.
know, check me out.
It's true, Ellie. You were the only one of the siblings who got to come.
Yeah, but you guys didn't really want me. It was just because Bruce didn't have his family.
No.
Don't take it away.
I didn't want Aria there. I wanted you.
Oh, fuck me now. I know how it feels now, Ellie. Oh, this hurts really bad.
Oh, one time. Been kicked to the curb my entire life.
Up until this point, in the wedding planning, I still hadn't invited Dad yet. Don't get me wrong, I was always planning to, but I'd just been waiting for the right time.
Yeah, I think I would have called him earlier, but none of us were really talking to him, except for you, Aria. You stayed in contact with him, but I wasn't talking to him. And at that point, he still was living in the house with Mary, and I was still bitter about all that stuff. So I was waiting till that was finalized, I think, before I actually called him and invited him to the wedding. I actually know exactly when it was that I called him. I called him just after the eyelash story. That's when it was.
I hate this story.
That's why I want to hear it. I know you hate it so much.
I hate it so much.
And is this story really a relevant part of my wedding saga? Probably not. But it does make Aria uncomfortable, which is always amusing for me. So here it is, in all its glory. The eyelash story.
I know the eyelash story.
You do.
Man, you have to know this story. This is one of the best.
I hate it. It's not that great.
I love it.
You fucking eyelash story. So I went over there and he was sitting out the front. He's like, hello. And he's immediately can smell the alcohol on him. He stinks. He looks a bit, I don't know what it was. He's just sort of sitting there looking at the van.
What time was this?
It was about 9 o'clock in the morning.
So he's been drinking all night, or starting early.
Yeah. And so I'm talking to him and there's an eyelash on his cheek. And he's in this deep conversation about how none of us were there for him. And he's crying and the eyelash keeps brushing the eyelash on these different parts of his face.
His eyelash is just moving around his face like it's a character.
And I want to tell him about it, but he's just going on about how we're terrible children.
Didn't it go on his mouth? I remember you saying it was on his lip or something.
It did, because he was wiping underneath his eyes, and then he'd wipe his nose, and then when he wiped on his cheek and then wiped his nose, and the eyelash went on his mouth, and then I was like, ah.
I remember when you're telling us this story, we're talking about Dad, he's just about to leave in this van and he's drunk, and the main focus is about this stupid eyelash moving around his face and how disgusting it was.
It was just, the whole thing was disgusting.
Yeah.
I'm just watching this eyelash go around his face, and then he's half crying, and then he's smoking cigarettes, and I'm like, the fuck is this?
And just like his disgusting, migrating face eyelash, Dad wasn't content to stay put where he was supposed to. And about 1 week later, he left Mary's house and took off in his transit van for good. And it was at this time that I chose to make that call and invite him to the wedding.
But that's why I chose to call him then, because when he left the house then, he was done with Mary, and I didn't want anything to do with her ever again. I was still very bitter about all of that. So I called him and then I said, hey Dad, me and Lily are getting married on this date, and I'd just like to formally invite you to the wedding. I'd really like you to be there. And he didn't even he didn't even pause or congratulate or anything like that. He just straight away said, I can't go because your mother's going to be there. And I said, well, we can maybe, let's work it out. And he said, no, I can't go. Your mum's going to be there, so I can't go. And I know he wanted me to beg him to go. Like, that's what he was waiting for. You know, please come, I want you to come, all of that stuff. But I'm just not interested in doing that anymore. So instead, I think we just moved on and then talked about him in the transit van and what he was going to do. And that was it. And it's a really weird one because it did bother me that Dad wasn't there. Like, deep down, I did want him to be there, even though I pretended like it didn't bother me. And I think it's like, I spent half my life idolizing the man. So I don't know. You want, I guess sometimes you just want your dad there. Can everyone please take out their red pens and cross off Dad's 3 potential conflicts? Those are the ones with Riggins, Aria, and Mum. Having enjoyed an event-free and, dare I say, normal wedding ceremony, with just our witnesses present, I turned my attention to the reception that was slated for 3 days later. And once the guests arrived, I pulled Ellie and Aria aside for some last-minute prepping. Who do we have? Who are the conflicts that we have to worry about during this reception? And do you remember what you said?
Well, Cara and Mum.
Yeah.
And Lily and Mum.
That's it. So 2. Unfortunately, one of them happens to be the bride, so that's not great.
So she has to come.
Yeah.
She's got to be there.
Yes.
But I also remember that I thought that Mum and Lily was the lesser of the concerns because Lily's reasonable. I couldn't see her getting in a big blowout, where Cara and Mum, there was so much pressure built up between those two that I could see that just exploding.
But also you told Mum as well that she's able to use this time to talk to Cara if she wanted to. So Mum knew about the whole airing grievances thing.
Yeah, and she seemed like she was keen to make up with Cara, didn't she?
Yeah, she did.
Cara less so. she did not seem so keen to make up with Mum.
Well, I think she was willing, but just not at that time.
The time for the conversation was a lot more than it would be at like having a single conversation at a wedding. It was deeper than just, oh yeah, let's make up. There's more to it.
Yeah, exactly. That being said, I had pushed on Cara too. I said, you've got a few days here. I want you to air this stuff, and if it needs to get heated, let it get heated. But please just maybe try not to do it during, the cutting of the cake or any of the important stuff.
But don't knock each other out, please.
and yeah, and we sort of had, like, the marching orders were set. It was keep the peace, there was that, but then also there was the other one, which was, keep an eye on Mum and Cara, make sure they don't kill each other or anything. The wedding reception was being held at our house the following afternoon, with all the guests staying that night and getting up early to help with the setup the following morning. Somehow, the first night, Mum and Cara managed to not even acknowledge each other. But it was good. Like, it wasn't awkward. They just didn't, it's like they didn't even exist to each other. And I was kind of hoping, like, oh yeah, maybe they just ignore each other for the whole weekend and that'll be it. But that was not it. And around 10 a.m. on the morning of the reception, cracks started to appear in the happy facade. I was over in the shed and I was getting some chairs together or something. And then Mum comes in and she's like, I've got this wonderful picture frame.
This plaque.
Yes, a plaque. and it said family. We may not have it all together, but together we have it all. Which is like the corniest thing I've ever heard. And I was thinking, like, oh, she's going to give me this plaque. That's an interesting gift. But then she's like, I think I'm going to give this to Cara. And then she just stares at me like she's waiting for me to say something. And it's like fucking awkward. So I don't know what to say. So I'm just like, I just say, oh yeah, that's a very, very sweet gesture, which isn't even anything I would ever say. And then she just like turns around and walks off. And I'm like, okay, I guess the conversation's over then. But then I realized that Cara's sitting in the middle of the yard having a cigarette. And Mum's actually walking directly towards her. And I'm like, oh my God, she's going to do this right now. And the thing was that Cara was within eye shot of me and Mum talking. Like, she could see me talking to her and Mum showing me the plaque. And it was super awkward. So I just ducked inside the shed to hide and closed the door behind me. And then I took a breath And I snuck over to the window so I could look, and I peeked out the window, and Mum was gone. And Kara's just sitting there smoking a cigarette with this plaque sitting on her lap. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Did Mum just throw the plaque at her and then run away?
That's Mum's version of making up.
It actually was.
This wonderful plaque.
Apparently she didn't say much either. She didn't say anything, did she?
She didn't say anything. That's what Kara said later. She just dumped the plaque on her lap and walked off. And that's like after 10 years of estrangement that Mum thought that would do it.
In previous episodes, I have spoken about the childlike way that Mum processes intense emotions, how she gets caught in them and can't put them aside, even if circumstance demands. And once Mum had flung that discount store metal plaque onto Kara's lap and ran screaming for the hills, she was expecting something, some recognition to appease her inner rancor. But really, if I'm being honest, there was nothing to be done. The cork had been taken out of the bottle, and there was no turning back. And ironically, everything that happened next started with a bottle of Dom Perignon.
Yeah, are you going to talk about the Dom?
Yeah, I mean, I have to, right? That's kind of what started the whole Mum and Kara thing.
You see, around the time of the wedding, I had been managing an arcade on the north side, and the eccentric and generous owner had bought me a bottle of the French champagne as a wedding gift.
And everyone knew about it too. You were very excited to open it.
Well, I'm not that bougie, and I mean, Dom Perignon, that's a $400-500 bottle of champagne. That's more than anything else I had at the wedding.
But as excited as I was, there was another guest who was even more so.
Mum would not let up on it. She'd be like, so is it true that you've got a bottle of Dom? And I'd be like, yeah, Mum, I told you, we've got a bottle of Dom. I've never tried Dom. I really want to try that Dom. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. You're going to try the Dom. Just relax. I'm just saving it for the wedding reception. Like, you're going to get some. Just calm down. And then it comes to the time when I'm opening the bottle, and I'm actually dreading it by this point. I don't even want to open it anymore. And so I make sure that when I do open it, I fill hers up first to get her out of the way. And while I'm pouring the bottle, I can see her. She's waiting, watching, shaking her cup, fill me up, make sure I get some.
Before you'd even opened it, Ian had come up to you and was like, your mum really wants a glass of that, so make sure she definitely gets a glass.
Ian's exact words were, she is the matriarch of the family. It's like, we get it, she wants a glass. I understand. It's like, I've been told about the stupid glass of champagne. And I remember, so everyone had got their glass and there was a bit left in the bottle, and I saw that you didn't have that much left, so I said, Aria, do you want to top up? Because I think you like champagne, right?
I like sparkling a lot.
Okay.
That's my drink of choice.
Yeah, and that's why, I went, do you want some? And then I went to pour it in your glass, and then I was
Before
like...
I even got any, Mum shoved her glass in front of mine and was like, me, give me a top up.
Man, it pissed me off so much when she did that.
I'd spent all this time acting like some savior of the family and pumping up my wedding as a place for us all to heal.
I saw you and you're like, no, give it here.
But maybe I should have kept my mouth shut and focused on my own feelings.
Because I got it and then I poured it in your glass and then there was some left.
Maybe then I would have had the forethought to give Mum the stupid top up and keep her happy.
I didn't want to give it to Mum, so then I went to Lily. I was like, Lily, do you want some more champagne?
And maybe then none of what happens next takes place at all.
And she's like, no, I don't really drink. And I'm like, take it, you're gonna drink it. And then poured the rest of it in her glass. And Mum had this look on her face, like a deeply unpleasant look. It wasn't a jerky gums, but it looked like, maybe she had a piece of shit in her mouth or something and she wasn't enjoying it. And I was just ignoring this because I was like, fuck her, I don't care, whatever. But then she grabs Kara by the arm and she's like, Kara, come here, we need to have a talk. And walks away down the yard with her, and I was like, okay, this isn't good.
And to make things worse, when Mum dragged Kara away from the party, she didn't drag her very far, and everyone who was there could hear what was being said.
We're watching them from across the backyard, and basically Mum is, for lack of a better word, attacking Kara verbally, saying, come over here, let's have a talk. And Kara is like, this is my brother's wedding. This is not the time.
Yeah, because I remember Mum was getting really personal. She was saying stuff to her that she was, she's always done this. She's done it her whole life.
She's a coward. She's hiding.
Yeah, that's it.
It's just going to take 15 minutes.
Yeah, and the crazy part was that Lily had dipped inside for some reason to go to the bathroom or something. So she had missed this. And so I quickly ran and pumped the music up super loud and then grabbed all the kids and started sort of getting them dancing just to hide what was going on. And then when Lily came back out, it was awesome because she saw the kids dancing and then just joined in. And so she was completely unaware of what had happened.
And I remember the next part very clearly, because at that moment, as I watched the careless smile across my new bride's face as she danced with the nieces and nephews, I knew that I had made a terrible mistake, and that the most important thing, more than all the apologies and reconciliations in the world, was to keep Lily happy, at least for that one night. And 6 words started repeating in my head as I gathered Ellie and Aria for an emergency meeting.
Nailed up at the back of the kitchen, and I just kept saying, protect the bride at all costs. That's all we have to do here. Just remember that. Just protect the bride at all costs. And I think I was a bit frantic with my message, but the two of you got what the meaning was, and you were agreeing with me and like calming me down and being like, okay, we're on top of it, all good. And as this is happening, I can see from the corner of my eye, Mum walks around from the side of the building and she comes past the window and she looked like shit. You remember that, right?
Yeah, her mascara was running.
Yeah.
And I look at you and I'm mouthing to you, did you just see that? And you just look straight at me and nod.
Yeah, well, I was lost for words because she was heading straight for the dance floor where Lily was. And then I think you went and intercepted her, right?
Oh, I did. I asked her if she would like some water after seeing like her mascara running. I'm like, you doing all right? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine.
But clearly, she was not fine.
She was wasted, right? Like, I don't know how she was wasted because it was early evening. We only just started drinking.
Yeah,
but
from
I think she was...
the dom that she was slurping, she's probably got everyone else's glass and started licking it or something.
Drinking the dregs from the glasses.
From the precious dom. The precious glass of dom.
Yeah.
But I remember you and me were like looking at her and we're just like, oh my God, she is wasted. Like,
Yeah, you were giving me the eyes. We were having a full conversation with our eyes.
yeah, well, I was at the dance floor with Lily because I sort of set up a perimeter there. So if Mum came within that sort of area, I could intercept her. But then you were off towards the other side of the backyard, sort of keeping an eye on her there and trying to interact with her if you could. And then Ellie, I'm not sure who she was. I think she was actually around the other side. And so we had it all locked down, but then she did something we didn't expect. She just disappeared completely.
You would think that having the most obvious and apparent threat disappear into thin air would be cause for some alarm. But in actual fact, it wasn't. And we let ourselves be lulled into a false sense of security. And after more than an hour of carefree dancing and drinking and celebrating, the facade was abruptly broken when Aria's husband's phone switched over into power-saving mode.
To put his phone on charge, and when he came back out, he said, I can hear your mum bad-mouthing all of us on the phone. When I went into the room, I could hear her from outside. So I went into our room and I could hear Mum, and she was saying how we were all treating her horribly. She doesn't feel like she's a part of the family. We're not being nice to her. We're not talking to her, which none of that was true. But I felt really uncomfortable, and I kind of wanted her to know that I could hear her, so I turned the light on and off in the room a couple of times and shuffled about my luggage and ended up tripping over my makeup case, which made a loud noise, but she still didn't stop. So I went out of the room and I went and found you and I said, make sure Lily doesn't go to the front of your house because Mum's on the phone bad-mouthing all of us. And I don't want to hear that. And you're like, what the fuck?
Well, I don't know if you realize this, Aria, but that was you telling me that was the point when the wedding stopped being like a wedding for me at all. It just turned into this whole whack-a-mole with Mum, trying to stop her from ruining things. And I remember again, I grabbed you and Ellie and I dragged you off to the corner, and then I was like, that's it. Protect the bride at all costs. Protect the bride at all costs. I remember Ellie, you were amazing. Like you literally latched onto Mum immediately and didn't leave her side for the rest of the night. Actually, when I think about it, you were doing that the whole wedding. Were you doing that the whole time on purpose?
Well, I kind of initially was at the start because I thought I didn't want her to go off, or like I didn't want her to be, I'm going to say alone with anybody.
Okay.
I know that sounds really bad, but I didn't want her to be, I was trying to keep her happy.
Well, you did. I mean, you did an amazing job.
Yes.
Way better than Arya. Like, Arya did nothing.
I had enough drama with Dad, and I was like, I have done so much damage control for the past year. I am taking a break, and I'm going to enjoy myself, because usually I'm stressing about all this stuff, and I really could give two fucks. I'm here to have a good time and enjoy my brother's wedding.
Look, I know. I'm not saying you didn't do anything wrong.
And I missed out on the ceremony, so I had to make up for it.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, and the other thing that I said when I grabbed you, like the first one was protect the bride, but the other one I said was we're not having any speeches, because I know what happened at Ellie's wedding, and I don't want to give Mum the chance to give a horrible speech that Lily will remember for the rest of her life.
And the bad thing is, you were going to say, like, thanks to Mum and everything, and give her basically her dream.
Yeah, that was a plan from the start, was to give like big public thanks to Mum, because I knew that she would love it. But yeah, she ruined that. And just, I mean, not having speeches at the wedding, it's sad as well, because, you know, that's a time when everyone gets to be vulnerable around each other, and, you know, there's some really great memories there, and, you know, we completely missed out on that.
Speeches aside, the rest of the night went by without any major issues. Don't get me wrong, Mum was messy and weird, and for some reason she wouldn't stop talking about the zoo, but at least I was able to keep all that craziness away from the bride. And when I did go to bed that night, I felt satisfied that I had done my job as a husband, at least for that one day. But of course, that one day couldn't last forever.
So I got up pretty early, probably around 7 a.m. or something like that, because I thought I'd get up and I'd get breakfast started, so when everyone woke up, they'd wake up to the smell of bacon, you know. And then I went out, and then on the kitchen table there was a note, and it said, me and Ian have gone to the zoo. And that was it. No elaboration, just that was the note. And this was the best news I could possibly get, because I was like, oh my God, we've got another full day where I don't have to worry about her and whatever is coming, because I knew something was coming.
And I made sure to take full advantage of this heavenly sent reprieve.
So we did it all. We went to the beach, we went to the arcade, we went to the markets. I think Bruce caught COVID at a cafe we went to, but that's another thing altogether. Man, it was just an awesome day. Like, to be honest, it was probably better than the wedding reception. It was so good.
And after a full 8 hours of eating and drinking and socializing with the people that I care about the most, it was time to go home.
And then we jump in the car, we drive home, and then everything's great. And then we get to our street, and then I see Mum's car, and I'm like, oh fuck, I forgot about that. That's right, I have to deal with her still. And then I park the car, walk into the front door, and I just walk straight to my bedroom, and then just lie down on the bed, and I just tried to go to sleep. And let's be honest, this was me hiding, obviously. It wasn't rational, but I thought if I went to sleep, maybe when I woke up, all the problems would be gone.
But when you're a grown-up, all the procrastinating in the world can't save you. And whatever problems you have in your life that you're hiding from, they're not going anywhere. So you may as well put on your big boy pants and deal with them, because they're gonna find you either way.
We arrived home, I was first inside, and so I went outside and sat down and noticed Mum with a beer in her hand that was almost empty. And I said, oh, how was your day? And she's like, I had a wonderful day. I went to the zoo and I saw the tigers and I saw all the animals and I just had a wonderful day, and it was just wonderful, wasn't it, Ian? It was just a wonderful day.
I just want to stop things here for 1 second, because I think it's important to let you know that Arya is doing a pitch-perfect impersonation of Mum right here. That is all. Continue.
And I just turned to Ellie and said, I've got to get a glass of water. And so I went straight inside, straight to your bedroom, because I wanted you guys to have at least 5 minutes before whatever was going to happen because I knew something was going to happen.
Well, I remember thinking, like, fucking Arya, can't she deal with it herself? Why did you have to bring this to me now? Can't she see I'm trying to get 2 seconds alone here? I look, and you don't have to stress. Like, I know you won't do anything wrong, but that's just what I was feeling at that moment. So I got up and I was like, okay, I better go deal with this. And then I left, and you stayed in the room, right? Like, I think you were.
I was just uploading the photos.
That's right. Yeah, you were uploading the wedding photos from the night before because I think Lily asked you to. But I left, and I barely made it 5 steps out of the door when Mum ran directly into me, and she grabbed me by the arm and she starts dragging me back towards the bedroom, and she's saying something about. What was it? What was she saying? It's like she needs.
I need to get the cereal from your room.
That's
I need
it.
to get the cereal from your room.
Yes, she needs to get cereal.
Can you come with me to find this cereal?
But there was no cereal. Like that made no sense to go to my room to get cereal. But I think it was just her way of getting me away from the protection of the herd.
Yeah.
How fucking terrifying is that? Like, it gets me alone in this room with her. Yes.
And I'm just sort of like sitting on the bed, like crouching down a little bit, like what's happening? And then all of a sudden Mum
Mum goes off, right?
she said something like, if you've got something to say to me, then say it or something.
Well, in her eyes, we'd been like horrible to her the whole entire time she'd been there. So she felt completely validated. Like, this is something she needed to let out.
Yeah. And then
And I actually felt like I was prepared for this. Like, the whole day it had been in the back of my head. I mean, arguably my whole life I'd been preparing for this, because this was really the first actual big confrontation I'd ever had with Mum. I'd never sort of face-to-face argued with her like this before. And after she'd finished saying all the things that we'd done wrong, I said to her, how horrible is it on my wedding night to have to overhear my own mother saying terrible things about me on the phone? How do you think that makes me feel? And when I was talking to her, I didn't want to get angry, so I was trying to stay really level because I knew it wouldn't help if I got angry. And it was quite emotional, and I wasn't going to cry or anything, but my voice got really wavery, like I was gonna start crying or something.
Your voice was a bit shaky with the first sentence, and then when Mum dug in, you dug in, and then I dug into the bed like a little hermit crab, trying to like be afraid. Yeah, I was like hiding away from it.
I'm not here.
Well, and also at that point where it looked like I was gonna start crying, that's when Lily decided to come in. So she comes in, she opens the door to go in, and then she like pokes her head in, and Mum just goes no and just pushes the door shut.
That's right.
That's right.
And I was just like, just in the bed, I'm like trying to like hide.
Aggressively downloading photos as aggressively as you possibly can.
But I think in the meantime, she's come out and said to me, like after Mum's pushed her out, because I think I might have been in like one of the other rooms or something, and then she went, your Mum's just kicked me out of my own bedroom. I was like, what? And I was like, oh shit, I wonder what's going on in there then.
And after I said about the phone call, it was like I threw a bomb at her because she just stopped dead for a second. But then she came back with Christmas. She's like, what you did to me on Christmas was so awful. I'll never be able to get over that.
That's right. And she pointed to me and she's like, how hurt was I, Arya? And I just like ducked further down into the bed.
Well, and I said, Mum, like Christmas, that's like 10, 15 years ago. Like, I think we're past that now. You're at my wedding right now. And she was like, yeah, but you've been horrible this whole time. You haven't included me in anything.
And you kept saying we weren't horrible to you. We've included you in everything. You're here. You were here for it.
Yeah, and then I kept bringing it back to the wedding because I just wanted to keep it current because she tends to always dwell in the past stuff. So I just said, but what you did now at my wedding, like that phone call on my wedding, like that's a horrible thing that you did. And then she did something that I didn't expect. She actually apologized. And it was nice, and I accepted it. Like I think I thought maybe this would be it. Yeah, it was nice.
And you said you love her as well. You love her. You're my mum. I love you.
I mean, I wanted it to be real. Like I thought maybe we were going to heal some things here, but it's not the way it went. After that, Mum just went straight back on the attack again. And then I said, you can't apologize and then start attacking again for the same stuff. Like, we've got to move on here. And after that went on for a while, then I just realized that we weren't going to get anywhere. I said, I'm not interested in just having this same circular conversation over and over and over again. So it's fine. I'm done with this conversation.
And then she left.
And then she left.
And then I started crying like a gimp.
Yeah, you cried brutally.
Yeah, well, it was intense. Like, I dealt with all of this shit from Dad for so long, and I was there to have a good time. Try to avoid the drama, and then I get locked in the room with the drama.
Oh, right in the front seat as well. You were
Like,
right
I'm
there.
fucking locked in there.
Yeah.
And you were like really caring, and I was like, it's all good, and I'm like, this is just who I am. I'm a crier, so don't worry about it.
It was such like a movie scene. You had the two siblings on the bed hugging each other, holding each other.
Oh, so sweet.
And also, it was really heartbreaking when I heard your voice crack.
Yeah.
And I had like all this like love for you. Like, I was like, oh geez, like, I don't want you to, like, I know what this feels like. This is shit.
Yeah.
But then you were like, you were so much better than I would ever be in a confrontation with Mum. Holy shit.
Yeah, well, it was just the first part. It took me a second to get my bearings, but
You like try to slap yourself to pull yourself together. Pull yourself together, you idiot.
and I remember I heard somewhere that if your tongue in the top of your mouth, then it stops you from getting emotional. So I remember I was just like tonguing the top of my mouth. You don't know that one? I was yeah.
I'll have to try that next time I feel like crying.
Oh my god. But that was the first time, like, ever in your life you've had a major one-on-one with Mum, I think. Or for a very long time.
I think maybe it was the first time since I was very little that I'd admitted to Mum that there was something that she'd done that had like bothered me or affected me. Like, usually I will if something happened, I'd just brush it. I'd be like, look, it's irritating, but it doesn't bother me. I don't need to really address it. But because it happened to Lily, I had to actually come out and say, you know, you did this to me and I'm really upset about this. And because I was admitting that it bothered me, then I think that's why I got emotional. And then I was like, oh my God, stop being a gimp. Tongue, get that tongue on the roof of your mouth. Tongue the roof of your mouth. The confrontation in my bedroom with Mum didn't last long, 10 minutes max, but it was impactful. And for the rest of Mum's stay, we managed to avoid each other entirely. I think I might have waved to her as she backed out of the driveway the next morning, but that was it. And I kind of always thought that this was where the story would end. But now that I'm here, I still feel unresolved. And deep down, I know that I'm only going to find the resolution I'm looking for with one special person.
I almost just ate a strawberry and then I realized you're probably going to hear me chew on the recording, so I didn't do it.
This special person, of course, is my wife and soon-to-be mother of my child, Lily. Wait, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's all right.
So the first thing that I wanted to do, and you've heard a few edits of the episode that I've shown you, so you might know this is coming. But I wanted to apologize for making the wedding more about me and my family and not taking you into consideration as much as I should have. So I'm very sorry for that.
We didn't have to apologize. I mean, we kind of knew what was happening and that's why we did it the way we did it. I guess the main thing that sucks is like, you know, they weren't there when we actually got married. I mean, I'm happy we did like a proper one when we went to Sweden anyway, because that kind of felt more real, I guess. I don't know.
What Lily is referring to here, and it's something that I haven't mentioned before, is that about a year and a half after our little homemade COVID wedding, we went to Sweden and had a big church wedding with Lily's never-ending extended family. I don't know if you're like playing it down or things have chilled over time. I know that we do always refer to the Sweden wedding as our real wedding. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like previously you have been more annoyed about what happened at the wedding at our house with Mum.
Like, I don't know if the wedding in Sweden kind of helped and that's why I'm like, yeah, it's fine.
I feel like maybe it's a bit like that.
Yeah, no. But I think it's also like I mean, I was pissed off like with everything that your mom did and stuff. And I do hate the fact that the wedding is associated with your mom's behavior and not us, like us getting married. So that still bothers me. And it's probably always going to bother me because I feel like if you talk about, oh, like other weddings or whatever, it's like, oh, it was such a great time and this and that. But our wedding is like, oh, this happened. This is what she did,
Yeah. But with the Swedish wedding, we do talk about that wedding, about
Yeah.
how beautiful it was.
Yeah.
And,
So I think that's why I think like after having that one, it's like, I don't know, it almost feels just more real because, it was like in a big church and like we had all my family there and my friends were there and it was like about 80 people and we didn't have anyone act like a crazy bitch.
Yeah. Well, and after that, after the wedding, I didn't talk to Mum for, I forget exactly. I think it was a year and a half, or
yeah, at least 2.
Yeah, maybe it was 2 years.
Yeah.
But then doing this podcast, I started to feel bad about that, and I started talking to her again.
Yeah, making my life miserable. No, I'm joking.
Well, and that's probably my biggest question. Like, we've got a baby on the way, and she's going to want to be a part of that. Both parents are. How do we navigate that?
Well, she's not coming into any more events.
But if we've got
that's it.
If we've got a baby, then how do we do that? How can we exclude her from everything?
And if I'm being honest, this is the real reason why I wanted to record with Lily. I wanted her to solve this impossible problem for me.
We can't, right? She's got to be part of the child's life. Like, we can't get around that.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like, it's a very difficult situation because, I mean, you probably want the kid to also spend the time with their grandma, but then she's a fucking psychopath, and then like everyone gets stressed, like you were saying, and like I don't want her there on the events because she's making them all about her, and it's
so
not
is
gonna be about
is there
the
a
baby.
solution?
And
Is there?
I don't know because I don't know what the solution is. I don't know if there is a solution. Just tell her to fuck off. And there's your ending.
Maybe that's the solution.
I don't know.
And I guess that is the best answer that I can hope for to this impossible problem, which is, if you didn't get it, that no matter how stressful or uncomfortable or unbearable these situations with the parents become, I have people in my life to share them with. Some who are bound to me by blood, and one who is extra special, who actually chose to be with me. And whatever does happen in the future, I know that I will always have these people to discuss and unpack my problems with at length. Starting with season 3 of this podcast, which is scheduled to be released sometime in 2025. And yes, that was going to be the end of my season 2 finale episode. But as I was completing the editing, I got an email from a very special lady and decided that before I put season 2 to bed for good, I needed to do one more episode. Next time on Walking on Eggshells with an Emotional Vampire.
Hi, my name is Angie Keene, and I am an author, artist, and comedian. My recently published memoir, Dismantle, is available through Warren Publishing, and I am very excited to share my story with the world.
That's next time on Walking on Eggshells with an Emotional Vampire. If you enjoyed today's episode, or if you think that you might want to be part of a future one, please let us know about it in the email or Reddit links that are in the description. Walking on Eggshells with an Emotional Vampire is produced, recorded, and edited by me, Lucas Shaw. Thanks for listening.